haven't said anything yet.
Anticipation.
Anticipation. That calls the angels in. Welcome, everyone. We've got Andrew here for the first time. I'm shocked. Miracles do happen. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Yeah, so we're in an extraordinary time, and I'm just really grateful and thankful. Just kind of blown away to be here in Mount Shasta, and to be honored to participate in such a beautiful, sacred vortex, and just be alive on this planet, witnessing the cosmic and human drama unfolding around us with great interest. How many of you are new to the human race? You're still just visiting, huh? Humans are a little strange, but I'm starting to actually enjoy the experience.
Are they growing on you?
Yeah, actually, like wow.
You know, they kind of do that like a weed.
Yeah.
We are a virus.
I mean, there had to be a really remarkable reason for me to make that leap into this human experience. There must be something extraordinary about humans that took me quite a while to get. And through many journeys on the mountain, my heart finally opened, and I took another look. And I really felt the heart of humanity, of the human race, and how it's been messed with from the very beginning of its history. And I saw a bunch of little children just running around, still looking for mom and dad to appear in the heavens and save us all.
8 billion autistic children.
So my experience from that point onward, deepened into compassion for all of us fellow humans and those from elsewhere who are trying to make sense out of it all and looking for a way to get back to heaven. So we've had, astrologically, we've had a pretty remarkable and important shift of what are called the lunar nodes. Anybody familiar with the lunar nodes, the north node, the south node in your chart?
A little bit.
It's related to the Earth-Moon relationship to our local star, the Sun. The path of the Moon will cross the what's called the ecliptic, or the apparent path of the Sun, twice a month. Once over the north node, going up north above the horizon, and once going south at the south node, going below the horizon. And this creates a north and south node opposite each other, a polarity, a polar axis, related to an opportunity for us to advance and grow. So I want to say a little bit about the moon before I go into the actual nodes. I'm sure you're all aware that the moon just happens to be pretty much exactly the same size as the sun's disk.
Really?
And that's why we have what are called solar eclipses, because it's the moon's disk fits exactly over the sun's disk from Earth's point of view. But this hasn't always been the case. It's been recently discovered that our moon was much closer to the Earth during its original inception, much, much closer. A vast, huge moon rocketing around the Earth. And that the moon is actually wandering away from the Earth about 1.5 inches a year. I mean, these crazy humans put a mirror on the moon, bounced a laser off of it, and figured out within inches of the exact distance from the Earth to the moon. How crazy is that? Yeah, we can't get along with each other. But they realized after doing this over a period of time that the moon is actually gradually wandering away from the Earth at about 1.5 inches a year. And this is due to the tidal bulge of the Earth's the moon's magnetic influence on the Earth is creates a tidal bulge, which causes the moon to slightly wander away each year. So in actual fact, if we extrapolate this 1.5 inches a year, it's only been in the last 50,000 years that this magical phenomenon of our moon fitting exactly over our solar disk has been occurring. So I call this the eclipse season of human evolution. Before that point, the moon just dominated the sun when it passed between the Earth and the sun. But now she's actually fitting perfectly the same size as the sun for possibly another 50 to 100,000 years. And beyond that time, we will no longer be able to experience an actual solar eclipse because the moon will have wandered further and further away, getting smaller from our point of view and no longer matching the sun's disk. So this, that is kind of mind-blowing when you think about it. When you think about the symbolism of that. 50,000 years ago was about the time that modern human really began to emerge into present-day civilization. So this eclipse season of the lunar principle, the mother principle, exactly matching the father principle, the sun, it marks actually the beginning of our present human civilization. So the lunar current, when we say moonlight, what are we actually looking at?
Reflection of the sun.
So it's not really moonlight, is it? It's
That's
sunlight.
how you look at it.
It's sunlight.
Sunlight reflected off the
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're still looking at sunlight. So the moon tends to be experienced as the stomach. It rules the sign of Cancer, the emotional body. How we feel and experience and reflect upon our experience emotionally. And that reflected light is coming from the sun, which represents the spirit, the eternal, immortal self, reflected into the mortal world of the moon, experienced in our emotional relationship to being here on earth as human beings. She lights up the night. She's the light of the night, so that when the solar spirit, immortal part of us, is eclipsed, she then reflects back to us the fact that we are still connected to the mortal self through our emotional nature. So the lunar nodes mark an axis through which we deepen our relationship to that reflected light in our human emotional experience. And they've just shifted from Virgo back into Leo. And this will be the case for the next 1.5 years. So those of us who are Pluto in Leo generation, born between 36 and 56, this may be our last hurrah in a way to really leave our mark and legacy for the further generations to pick up the baton, the torch, and run with it. This is a particularly important switch because in our lifetimes, I'm not aware of there being an eclipse that was completely. Is anyone aware of an eclipse path across the entire United States? Is the one coming up in August 21st? Was there one?
Coming up this year?
Yeah, I mean, this may be in my memory.
It seems to me in the early 60s, I remember walking through an eclipse. I was in Detroit.
Yeah.
And I wasn't tuned in enough to know where the path was.
Yeah, it's being called the American eclipse. It's August 21st.
This year?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's in Leo. And an eclipse can only occur close to the lunar nodes. So we're, in a sense, we've just now, May 9th, begun to enter the experience necessary to be prepared for that eclipse on August 21st. And the Americas being, United States of America being the focal point of the of planetary destiny. Now it also struck me that because this nodal axis goes backward, retrograde, and the moon is associated with our emotional memory. If you think about those things you remember the most in your life, those are the most emotionally charged experiences of your life. Emotionally charged experiences lock into your body's knowing, your cellular memory, and become an emotional context driving much of your conscious goals. That's why much of the consciousness work is connected with bringing those emotions out into the open so they can be understood and more consciously navigated. So the moon, this shift of the nodal axis is now shifting back into Leo as the north node, Aquarius being the south node. The south node is suggested as the place of previous memory, which we've already mastered, and the north node being its opposite, where we feel like we need to make an effort to evolve that aspect of our being.
A lot of people time the past lives, like the south node is basically the last sign you were, and the north node is the next sign you'll be.
I wouldn't go that far, but it does connect with possible memory carried over from previous incarnations. Yeah, because it is directed. The lunar nodal axis is connected to the emotional memory seated in your body, and the way that one incarnational experience will be carried over into the next is through emotional memory locked in the cells of your body. So that's why it's connected with the nodal axis. And the way that possible memory is then brought back into view in this incarnation is through walking through a similar experience again, having a similar emotional impact on you. And that memory then is drawn out into more conscious view. So the nodal axis is connected with, when something is going retrograde, it is going back into the past. And the moon does hold the memory of our past experience. So the whole nodal axis growth opportunity is going back into a moon, Cancer, stomach, digesting previous experience and extracting its nutrients, its consciousness, its gift from it.
So is the north node in Leo,
Mm-hmm.
south
Node's in Aquarius. So the Leo is like like our sun. It rules. Leo's ruled by our sun. It's associated with our sun, our local star. And so Leo is its opportunity because we aren't our signs. We're immortal beings. The sign we've chosen is an opportunity to develop our and advance our soul's growth. It's not who we are. But the opportunity here with Leo is to realize your own personal brilliant star. That's why Leo is connected with people who are well-known, famous, big hair. Andrew used to have big hair. He's a Leo. And but they're just, the Leo aspect is just emerging into an awareness of how brilliant you are, and how brightly you need to, and boldly you need to take the stage and shine that light. Be the star of your own movie. So Leo is like the brilliance of our local star, the sun. When the sun rises, you can't help but notice him, right? I mean, he's so bright, he's like, whoa. So opposite to Leo, its counterpoint is the sign of Aquarius. And I associate the sign of Aquarius with a constellation of stars. That these many different stars weave together and form a bigger picture. So you become aware of a community, you become a member of a community of stars. Aquarius is about community, your friendship, your circles of those you relate to, with whom you then become identified and merged as a greater group. So the South Node is saying, okay, you got that down. You know how you being part of a community and disappearing within it, being a star in a constellation, is something that is already done. Your challenge, your opportunity here is to emerge from the constellation and become a brilliant star in your own right, and step forward with creative talent of your individual creativity. So wherever that Leo Aquarius axis would fall in your charts would be where that opportunity would most likely arise. And particularly if you have 4 or 5 planets in Leo like Andrew does, I'm going to start getting his autograph. Does anyone have Leo emphasis in their chart? Moons? Have you all felt the shift beginning? How have you felt it? Are you feeling like there's a coming out party here now, beginning?
Yeah, I have Jupiter retrograde in Leo, so it's definitely from the inside out, big time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Any Leo suns or moons? Okay. So you should be doing the talk tonight. You can be the star of this show. So, yeah, I've been feeling quite the dramatic shift, and interestingly enough, it's, you know, Trump is the last degree of Leo rising, and this eclipse will be exactly conjunct to his ascendant in Mars in August. So he's being spotlighted now, for better or for worse, because Leo can grab the spotlight through controversy, or it can just be the rock star and really light up the stage for others to follow. So this this particular Leo axis, Aquarius axis, is also being highlighted by what's called the Grand Trine between Saturn, Uranus, and the North Node. Saturn's in Sagittarius, Uranus is in Aries. These are all fire signs. There are 3 fire signs in each. There are 3 signs in each element. So there'd be 3 signs in fire, in earth, water, and air. So Saturn, the 3 fire signs are Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. Uranus is in Aries, fire. The North Node is just retrograded back into Leo. And we've had Saturn in Sagittarius for the last year and a half. So all 3 fire signs are represented here. And when you have a third point opposite one of the Grand Trine points, which happens to be the axis of the nodes, in Aquarius you have what's called the Grand Trine kite. You have the triangle, and then opposite that triangle you have this 4th point, and it creates what looks like a kite. So this is the most creative and dynamic, because Grand Trines can be latent talent that's not triggered or activated. It can just lie there. But when you have the kite, it's like brings it into activity. So the social activism of Aquarius and our need to move toward a more enlightened and collective future will activate the creative fire of this Grand Trine to motivate each one of us to take a more dynamic and starring role in our own movie. And this will actually be pretty much active through all the way through November. So this is all summer. So I'm looking forward to this opening now that's just begun. Any questions about that or comments?
Well, won't the axis, how long will the axis, I mean, how long will the nodes be in Leo? A year and a half, did you say?
Year and a half, yeah. But the Grand Trine to Saturn and Uranus will pretty much be an orb within orb, this Grand Trine kite, through November. So we're looking at a very creative and dynamic 2017. And then right in the middle of all that, we have this mind-blowing American eclipse on August 21st, going all the way across the United States as a marker point for the full activation of our creative selves.
How long is that going to last, the eclipse?
3 minutes.
It depends on where you are in the country. You know, it's up to about 2 or 3 minutes. But it takes 2 or 3 hours to move across the country. Yeah. Has anyone signed up to camp out along the line of the eclipse? You have? Sweet. Do you have this eclipse active in your chart?
I'm not sure actually. I haven't looked into it, but
You must have if you're
I've
going.
been planning on going since 2015, so.
It's your destiny then. Sweet. You can be the rest of our eyes and ears. So we also we are just leaving the shadow of Venus, the Venus retrograde yesterday, and Mercury leaves its shadow tomorrow. And this marks the completion of an entire teaching phase which has been going on for the last 2 or 3 months. That opens the door to enter into new territory. So a lot of us may be feeling that the lights have now finally turned green after a difficult and challenging beginning of the year and 2016 in general. But suddenly there's like this open, liberated freedom to really move forward into unexplored territory and take the bull by the horn, so to speak, because the sun's still in Taurus, and get on with it. Have many of you felt like you've just been liberated and things have lightened up considerably?
Yeah.
Good. You're right in tune. And the sun currently is right now, tonight and tomorrow, is conjunct the Pleiades. And the Pleiades have are any of you tuned into the Pleiades, the energy of it? Yeah, Lewis is. Yeah. In cosmology, the Pleiadians apparently are a more highly advanced race than we are, and they've modeled their entire civilization on love, beauty, and harmony. And
I'd say they're related to us.
yeah, and many may feel that they are in another incarnation, at least somewhat familiar or connected to them.
Well, they think of themselves as older brothers and sisters.
Yeah, older brothers and sisters, right? And the Pleiades is called the Seven Sisters, and because of the wobble of the Earth, stars, from our point of view, gradually progress forward 1 degree every 72 years, taking about 26 and 1,000 plus years to make a complete circuit around the heavens from our point of view. And because the Pleiades consists of 7 stars, Halcyon being the central star, it's kind of spread over like a 1 or 2 degree area. And the Pleiades have actually been progressing from Taurus into Gemini since the late 90s. And the transition from Taurus to Gemini is actually the Pleiades beginning to Gemini speak to us. So we've had a lot in the New Age, especially channels supposedly connected to the Pleiades who are speaking to us. So this, from Earth's point of view, has started another 2,160-year period for the Pleiadian star cluster in the sign of Gemini. It's like the age of Gemini for the Pleiadians, from our point of view. And the sun is connected to them tonight. So as the sun moves into Gemini tomorrow afternoon and Mercury leaves the shadow, we'll be beginning a very active period of playing with our conscious awareness, catching up with all the experiences we've been having for the last couple of months. Because Aries and Taurus are all about personal experience with this domain. In Gemini, you begin to want to talk about and communicate your experiences with others. So that's another sign of the door really opening up for us to engage, communicate, and participate in each other's lives more actively. How many of you felt a little inward for the first part of the year and not really connected?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, that's going to really begin changing tomorrow. Suddenly you'll start feeling like, whoa, okay, who haven't I talked to for a while? I need to give them a call or go out and have some tea. And show up and be more available to social media and reestablish and strengthen those links of community that may have fallen somewhat by the wayside with the challenges of last year and the first part of this year. And with these nodes, with the nodes shifting back into Leo and Aquarius, this it's going to be a very socially active summer and fall. And we might really start feeling like, okay, it's time for us to get involved with the experience of being a human being and really show our best, so that we can all take advantage of the opportunity to shape the future that we've been dreaming about, rather than being disappointed with those who are in positions of leadership and not particularly living up to the standard that we had hoped that they would. And one last astrological concept I'd like to introduce to you is the concept of a planet being out of bounds. Because the Earth is tilted at 23.5 degrees, the Sun's apparent path will wander from 23 degrees south to 23.5 degrees north. It creates a band where beyond that band the Sun cannot appear directly overhead. That's the Tropic of Cancer and Capricorn, if you look on a map. Because of Earth's relationship to the Sun is bound within that band. It's called the Sun's kingdom. But the planets, because they're not bound to that band, can move beyond that band that the Sun travels through, either north or above or south below. And when a planet, a celestial, including the Moon, breaks free of the Sun's kingdom, it's said to be out of bounds. It's no longer governed by the dominant rules of the Sun, the society that we're a part of. And Mars just went out of bounds last weekend. Mars being in Gemini, impulsive communication. And if any of you have been following the news, you know, Trump's been all over the news with saying these impulsive things that are breaking the bounds of normally accepted societal rules. But we all experience that as being, when Mars is out of bounds, especially north, is being kind of wild, free, and creative, not bound by the rules of society to which we are expected to conform. And Mars in Gemini, Mars will go into Cancer on June 4th, and Mars will be in what's called his fall throughout June and into July, until about July 20th, out of bounds until the latter part of July. So we're going to find that it may be an emotional roller coaster, particularly in June onward. When a planet is in this what's called the sign of his fall, he or she has the most difficult time being a happy camper in that country. It'd be like a feminist visiting Saudi Arabia, you know. Yes, I mean, not even being allowed to drive a car. See? But if a planetary being can master themselves, or him or herself, within that difficult environment, they achieve a place of complete mastery. So when the sign of Cancer is connected to the Moon, the lunar current being really emphasized throughout the entire year because of the eclipse coming up in August. Mars is by nature very male and assertive, and really wants to do his or her own thing. It's the primary principle that drives us to self-actualize and be ourselves. But what's the sign of Cancer like? Anybody here know?
Sensitive,
Yes, mother, always concerned more so with how others are feeling the Moon, so that your actions don't hurt other people's feelings. So Mars being in Cancer might feel like Mother rhymes with smother. Somewhat smothered in his or her right to be themselves, Mars, and to assert themselves in a self-actualizing and authentic way. Because Mars he's the one who ensures that we, as individuals, are not compromised in our own authenticity, and that we have the right to assert ourselves as individuals and go after what we want. But Mars in Cancer is operating in a highly sensitive environment where it seems like every time he asserts himself or herself, he's going to be stepping on the toes of others around him in a way in which there's going to be an emotional reaction to his right to claim what's right for him or happy, to make him happy. So we can see that that's a very kind of pressure cooker environment throughout June and July, and it'll be an opportunity for us to master the art of being true to ourselves and not being smothered by the emotional, highly sensitive environment we may find ourselves in throughout that period of time. And by July 20th, around that time when the sun enters Leo, his own sign, I think we'll be through that particular initiation. Yeah, Mars enters Leo July 20th, and then the sun on the 22nd. So, yeah, that'll be the time to celebrate in mid-July. So, June through the first part of July may be a little challenging. But every challenge has an opportunity. The greater the challenge, the greater the victory. If we're not challenged periodically, we don't grow beyond our comfort zones. And but if you have the advantage of knowing that everybody's going through it along with you, you won't take it so personally, because with Mars in Cancer, everything seems like it's personally directed at you. And if you remember that, wait a minute, this has nothing to do with me, possibly. It's not. I don't take everything so personally. You'll find that you're able then to find your balance within that environment more clearly. So that's pretty much the highlight. I feel like today or this last weekend has really opened the door for the entire summer, and we're just going to be building on this new freedom of expression and opportunity to come out into the open more fully, particularly from mid-July onward, and really enjoy this victory lap that we've succeeded in breaking through the difficulties of 2016. Part of 2017.
Yay me!
Yeah, it's
I
time.
made it. I'm alive. Another year.
It's finally time to go back out and really play and
Yeah.
participate. You know,
Yeah,
the
winter's
Leo
over.
Aquarius axis is about being in the game. You know, showing up and letting your light shine. So, do we have any questions at this point? Anybody want to share?
On the subject of the Leo shift, I have had multiple people tell me over the last few weeks to a month that I seem like a completely different person.
You look like a different person.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, you know, look, you know, meeting a soulmate can have kind of a life-changing influence on you. So,
Indeed.
sweet, congratulations. Are you liking this person that they say you changed into?
I don't miss old Andrew.
What's that?
I don't miss old Andrew.
Okay, good. I think with Leos in particular, like Andrew has 4 planets in Leo, you're really going to be coming into your own this year and really feeling not so much that you, the old part of yourself, you disliked, it's just that you weren't more of yourself. And more of yourself is now showing up and finally breaking through the barrier that it prevented you from really shining your light brightly.
Sounds accurate.
Yeah, because you know, this goes to the point I was making earlier about we not being our charts. When you look at you look at Andrew, 4 planets in Leo, you'd think he'd be this know, he'd walk into the room like Ted Nugent or something, you know. But this is what Andrew's learning to become. It's something he hasn't done before. So it'll take him a while to really get the handle of what this bright, big, showy Leo energy is all about. Be comfortable enough with it to really manifest it. So this is true of everyone's chart, you know. You grow into your chart because it's a new experience for your soul. It's not something you've done before, otherwise you wouldn't have chosen it again.
It's like a potential then.
Yeah, it's an opportunity, it's a
It's like a
potential.
blueprint to show what the possibilities are
Yeah,
for that.
it's a latent potential that your immortal soul has chosen to embody. You are an immortal soul, you're not your chart. And when I got that distinction clear, I could really look at the chart or experience the chart as an opportunity rather than fearing being captured by it or identifying with it as defining me. It doesn't define me. It defines an opportunity of this incarnation, and very beautifully and clearly. But it's the mortal matrix that it's describing, the matrix I embedded myself in as an immortal soul. And, you know, Andrew just experienced his first Saturn return. The first 30 years of your life, you're usually recapitulating previous incarnational history in order to determine how clearly you then can define your present life goal and emerge as an adult from that point onward. So,
So how does that tie in with all these retrograde planets? I know Mercury just went direct, but I think Saturn is retrograde until like December or
yeah,
October or something?
the outer planets are retrograde for months at a time, so they don't have direct personal impact on us unless they are transiting over a personal planet in our chart. So I don't spend a whole lot of time, you know.
Or if somebody has Saturn retrograde in their chart, then Walling's retrograde for like all that time. It's
Yeah,
gonna affect
but they
all that
tend
time.
to be experienced as high above, and the more the general large archetypes that we can't personally influence, unless a personal planet is involved with
What
that
about Mars?
particular
Is it
planet.
retrograde?
But the celestials from Mars inward to the Sun,
Okay.
those are our personal planets.
Right.
Those we embody personally as a human being. But some people, you know, have a personal planet conjunct a transpersonal planet, and they become an embodiment of that archetype. Like Donald Trump has the Sun, which is his vitality, his beingness, his egoic self, conjunct Uranus, the transpersonal planet of the radical and the unexpected. So he's a personal embodiment of the archetype of Uranian energy,
No.
never knowing what the hell's going on here and what it's just like lightning strikes and you can take a complete 180. And even the way he talks is like Aquarians or Uranus can jump all over the place and just bring into the conversation completely unrelated things that seemingly are unrelated. And it seems like word salad. But on the higher level, it all fits together, and then you finally break through and you get it. There was a point here somewhere. But that's very Uranian and Aquarian, actually. You know, they can take this seemingly unrelated thoughts and ideas and throw them all into a mix, and it comes out tasting good somewhere to some people. But he's an example of a personal celestial, the Sun, connected to a transpersonal archetype, Uranus. So for a person like Donald Trump, Uranus then becomes a personal planet. It plays a personal role in his,
Even though it's an outer planet.
in his identity, because he's, as the Sun, a personal embodiment of that archetype.
Does that happen that often?
It's not that rare, yeah. But most people in real positions of power, I've noticed, have a personal planet conjunct a transpersonal planet. Like George Bush II had Mercury conjunct Pluto in his first house, which is, the first house is his own personality, his persona. So he became an embodiment through his language of power of Pluto in his presidency. And I believe Bill Clinton had Mars conjunct Neptune in the first. So personal planet Mars conjunct transpersonal. So you often see people who play a larger than life role become the personal embodiment of that archetype for everyone else to experience. And if you're having one of these outer higher octave celestials transiting over a personal planet, you become an embodiment of that archetype for that period of your life, either by progression or transit.
So why does Saturn have such a big effect on us with the Saturn return if it's transpersonal? The celestials Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto tend to be transpersonal because they're beyond they're beyond being able to be seen with the physical eye. So, archetype, symbolically, which you can't see it beyond the physical eye, it's transpersonal. Whereas Jupiter and Saturn are still visible to us. And Jupiter and Saturn are the bridge between the personal and the transpersonal. They're called the social planets. And Saturn in particular is our relationship to our present society and how we take our adult role within it. It's a 30-year cycle. So it really takes 29 to 30 years to fully mature as an adult and begin to really feel some solid foundation upon which you can then make your adult contribution to society. Is that clear? And everybody has a Saturn, believe it or not. Okay. Any other questions? Everybody got the answers they were seeking? Well, we'll call it a night if you guys are feeling complete. I hope. You're an astrologer, right?
Yeah.
So what are you seeing?
Well, you did my chart last year.
Uh-huh.
Well, what you're saying, what I'm hearing is that this is our time to really shine in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
But as Mars goes into Cancer, that shining there might be a little more sensitivity, but your advice is rather than use that Mars energy to just go inward again, you'd say, or maybe we don't have any choice, we have to keep, but we might be kind of bumping into each other maybe a bit, or
Yeah.
but then once it goes, and once Mars passes that or into Leo, then that'll start to. We have some sensitivity this summer coming up, but it's to keep moving forward, keep shining, and finding our groups, finding our communities, finding how we shine differently and newly in those communities.
Right.
And would the eclipse season be maybe some communities are changing, or we might be finding our shining in other areas? Like for instance, I'm suddenly back in Shasta, and I thought it was going to be more Southern California and Central California. Now it's suddenly happening up here. Like find yourself in a new space, a new time, new people.
In July?
Or just kind of like what this this weekend is happening through this week, and then into the summer's eclipse.
Yeah, well, all the personal celestials are direct now, so there's no need to hold back, but follow your intuition and inner knowing. But bringing up the Mars signature related to the eclipse, from July 20th onward, he will also be in Leo, the same sign as the eclipse. And by the time of the eclipse, in August 21st, he'll be very close to that eclipse area. So by the latter part of July onward, it's like, wow, like fireworks have ignited. But between now and then, we may be going through somewhat of a refinement
is the best way to put it, of our Martian drive. So that we, by the end of that initiation, will be much more refined and sensitive to the feelings of others without compromising our own authenticity. Because Mars requires you to follow your inner voice, your inner fire, and not be compromised by the overreactions of others around you. So there are ways that you can be true to your own inner fire without imposing that fire on others around you. And that's what we're going to be finding out or learning more about as Mars enters Cancer in June and July. So that we learn to be more conscious about how we use that fire without setting other people off. But also not doubting the truth of our fire and remaining true to ourselves in the process. So that's why you can see how Mars might have a difficult time in that environment. But that's where he will achieve his greatest mastery also. So by the time he enters Leo, it's like, whoa, it is now party time, and all of that, all the restraints come off, put it that way. And we really then come out in the open fully, just in time for the build-up, because then the sun goes into Leo on the 22nd of July, to the eclipse from that point onward. Even though it's August 21st, it's the very end of Leo. The sun enters Leo on July 22nd, and then Mars on the 20th of July. So it's really going to be a big build-up to party time for the eclipse, the latter part of August. Is that clearer?
Party time.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.